Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. We did. Um, I did try that little trick of cutting up the turkey, cutting all of the legs and thighs and everything off, and cooking everything separately. And I have to tell you, it's the first time in my life that I've had white meat that didn't taste like straw. And not that I'm not putting down anybody's turkey from the past, so don't get offended if you're listening, but it is very difficult to make sure the entire turkey is juicy and delicious, and we were able to do that with the cooking method that I used yesterday and that we had gone over the day before Thanksgiving. Anyhow, let's get to some of the crazy stuff that's going on in our world, and we're going to do that show that I was talking about doing next week. We're going to do it today because there are too many important things going on in our country. I got to tell you, I don't want you to be surprised by it if any changes take place and happen. And you can't say that I didn't tell you. All right. And we do have tagged the president, the FBI, and the White House today. So, first, let's start off with the crazy situation with John Paul Miller. So, I came on here and told you a couple of times the other day. We were told, and I kept saying allegedly because it had not been confirmed, that John Paul Miller had turned himself in through his attorney's office. I think that was 2 days ago. And I have been waiting for confirmation. And all I could tell you is he's missing. We don't know where he's at. We haven't been able to see him. We've seen Susie leave the house and come back and leave the house. Even left the house with somebody we don't recognize. It was a man. But we have not seen John Paul Miller. Now, it seems as if some people are speculating that a rumor started. And let me say this, okay? If this rumor, and if it's true that it's a rumor, started by the camp of John Paul Miller to cause trouble, or to even cause aggravation to the people who were out there, or maybe you just wanted to be talked about again and you got tired of being not mentioned on all these shows, well, now you're going to get your wish. So if in fact that was coming from the John Paul Miller camp to cause trouble, I pray in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, the Lord Jesus Christ, that you get what you wish for. Okay? If you were messing with us or playing with us, I now pray that it actually happens and that it bites you in the ass. All right? There you go. So, I believe it will. Because that's sorry. That was me. Because that's just a mean thing to do. Now, again, I have not seen him. Nobody has seen him. Everybody's going, where is he? It has not been confirmed or denied that he did turn himself in. We just haven't been able to get an answer. But when you don't, people are so impatient and their minds go wandering when they don't get an answer right away. So they just start to make stuff up because they want to be heard instead of just looking for the answer. And so you got people just doing shows and saying, well, it's a rumor and it's this and it's that. Why don't you just wait till there's a confirmation? I don't know what the big deal is. He obviously has to go to church on Sunday morning, most likely. And so let's see if he shows up at church. If he's not there, then maybe it's not speculation. But there was a person who told me, okay, and I'm not talking about Luna Shark. I'm talking about someone who is inside the entire situation with Solid Rock, lives in Myrtle Beach, friends with law enforcement. And they were the ones who told me that he had turned himself in. So, and also was the one who told me about Trisha and her letters. So, and the letters thing was actually confirmed. Why would Trisha be writing goodbye letters to her family if this did not happen? So a lot of things have not been answered. But I'm not just going to say it hasn't happened because we got a lot of naysayers out there. Oh, we're never going to see justice. Oh, it's never going to happen. I got to tell you, you guys are the most annoying people. I mean, really the most annoying people to listen to. The most negative Nancys I've ever come across, and the world would be a lot better place if you just be quiet. Just be quiet. If you're that negative, just be negative in your own little world. Please don't bring it out to us. Okay? He's under federal investigation. It is it is obvious that there will be a day where he's going to be taken into custody. The feds just don't investigate people and they go, "Okay, we're done," and then move on. So there are charges, there are reasons that they're going after him. So you're just going to have to trust the process. And if you can't trust it, you don't know what's going on, pray. Don't come up with your own stories in your own head just because. This is the stupidity of people today. Instead of it being actions above words, it's words above actions. And that's all people are worried about, is being heard. And they don't care about what they're saying, whether it's true or not, or if it has any weight or value to it. They just speak without even thinking. So let's just see what happens. We're still waiting for confirmation. And when it's confirmed, then I'll let you know. But until then, pray. All right. So let's move on to what's going on in our world, because this is important. Does this affect Micah and Chris? Well, it will eventually. It'll affect all of us, hate to tell you, and your lives the way you're living it right now. So we've had 2 National Guard members shot. One has passed away yesterday because they were attacked in Washington, D.C. Now, to you, that might just be some news story, but that's a pretty serious crime. And our country is facing a very serious situation here. Not just insurrection, which is what we've been seeing going on for a while now, but also color revolution. So let me just give you the definitions of those things so that we can talk about them. Now, a color revolution refers to a series of largely nonviolent pro-democracy uprisings that have swept across several. This is where it comes from, post-Soviet states and other regions since the late 1990s. These movements are characterized by their use of a specific color or flower to symbolize the movement and unify protesters, lending them their colorful monikers, such as the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, 2004, the Rose Revolution in Georgia, 2003, and the Tulip Revolution in, great one, Kyrgyzstan. Okay, I don't even know how to say that. Too many consonants, not enough vowels. 2005. The core strategy of these revolutions typically involves nonviolent civil resistance, including protests, demonstrations, civil disobedience, and the strategic use of social media to mobilize support. Okay. And I'm going to just hold on now. Don't go anywhere. Let me get you in insurrection, what that means. Okay, an insurrection is a violent, organized uprising against an established government or civil authority aimed at overthrowing or disrupting its operations. Unlike protests or civil disobedience, which we just read about, insurrection involves coordinated, often armed resistance that threatens the stability of government functions. Now, a color revolution can lead to martial law, typically when a government perceives the protest movement as a serious threat to its authority and stability. Governments may respond to large-scale organized protests, especially those suspected of being externally influenced, George Soros, or aiming at regime change by declaring martial law to regain control. This involves suspending civil liberties, imposing curfews, deploying the military, and restricting political activities and media, which sounds good to me. Now, The application of martial law is strictly limited to situations where civil authority has completely broken down or it's ineffective, such as during active war or insurrection where courts are actually closed and criminal justice cannot be administered according to the law. Only if the judicial system has completely ceased to function due to extreme circumstances like war, insurrection, catastrophe, or in this situation, I believe, is because they are completely corrupt, paid for by people that are outside our country, um, to keep the criminal protected and the victim really in danger. Okay. Um, the Supreme Court has held that martial law may be justified only when civilian courts are actually closed and it's impossible for them to administer justice through normal legal channels. Why would I be bringing this up? Okay. Well, we have people that are in our politicians. We saw the 6, idiots that had, and they're all, former CIA, military, who are politicians now, who went out and did this video. And I can play it for you. It's actually part of a show that I have actually clipped, certain, we're able to get certain timestamps in this show to show you what I mean by how we are in a situation right now where I believe many join me in this belief that our court system is not functional. They are not able to hold these people accountable. And these 6 people are calling for military to not obey the orders of the commander in chief, which is our president. That's dangerous. We also have mainstream media with other politicians looking to increase violence on our streets and actually asking for pushing, maybe advising, inciting, however you want to put it, to cause more violence in our streets. Now, think about it. Think about the 2 women who've been attacked on the trains. Are these people just, illegal aliens? No. No. We've got 2 teachers who are plotting to strike ICE and ICE agents. So and then this guy who, did this attack on the National Guards, there was actual people looking him up before he even did the attacks. And they were able to find these Google searches. Why were they looking this guy up? So this was a plan. These were planned attacks. So if we got planned attacks against our law enforcement, we got planned attacks against our military, that's when you know that we are not able to depend on our court system to protect the innocent, to protect the law-abiding. They're only protecting what we know as criminals, whether it be domestic or foreign. And so that's, I feel, and many, as I said, others feel, military is the only way. That's going to interrupt our lives as we see it. Okay? And yes, U.S. citizens can be, under those circumstances, where the judicial system that we are under right now, the civilian courts, are unable to perform their duties because they are so highly corrupt, that martial law can take over and can court-martial U.S. citizens. And I believe that if we start now, we start with the higher-ups, it might scare the crap out of the people below them. It might just scare people. It might just make them realize that the Trump administration means business when they say they're going to bring law and order. Law and order does not stop at the mainstream media, who I believe are completely and totally responsible for lying to the American people and causing deaths because of those lies. And they've protected many. It's too much now. Now we've got people who we depend on to keep us safe. Now they're targets. So how can they keep us safe if they're being targeted? Obviously, something drastic has to happen. And this is not something that's outlandish or impossible. It's way too corrupt for us to be able to depend on them to protect us and our families. So let me start off with what I'm going to play for you is portions of And We Know, which is the latest show that he did. And I will put the link in the chat after the show. And then we're going to go over actually the illegals and the crimes that they've caused, legal aliens that have come in through Biden and the Democrat. I'll be honest with you, Democrat, Republican, they've all been corrupt. Okay, the Bush family is the worst of them all. So let's just blame it on all of the people, all of the administrations before Trump were so corrupt. They allowed this to happen. They allowed these people in, and it was for good reason, just to pretty much torment the American people. We'll go over that. We're going to go over the ones who committed the crimes and the crimes they committed. There is an actual page that mentions all of them, and then we're going to talk about the victims of these crimes because they deserve to be mentioned. Let me add, let's see, share screen. All right. So let's start here. Let me give you a full screen here. All right.
Here's something that was posted by Laura Logan, a news source gathered Louis Montoya, showing that the D.C. Guardsman shooting isn't adding up. Shooter Romulo Lakanwal, CIA-backed Kandahar Strike Force vet, per leaked ID, and Ratcliffe in a Fox News interview confirmed that Lakanwal's ties to the CIA are part of a partner force in Kandahar. You hear that? Ties to the CIA. Based on declassified intel briefings, ambushed 2 unarmed guardsmen at 2:15 p.m. yesterday, and he yelled, "Allahu Akbar." Critical, but alive. But Google Trends, check this out. His name spiked in DC at 2:24 a.m., 84 interest, 3:28 a.m., 8 a.m., hours before the shots were fired. Was there foreknowledge? We need to subpoena the IPs, the addresses of the people who were doing these Google searches. Laura Logan said the spike in searches of this person's name in the hours before the attack means the people who knew this was going to happen were searching to see if he had completed his task. A known CIA asset who was a trained member of a covert unit of assassins. Make no mistake, whether he came to the United States on an SIV visa or humanitarian parole, he has a sponsor, a handler, and a detailed dossier. They know exactly who he is. The question is, who was he working for on this operation?
Now, let me ask you a question. Do you want people like this who were searching to make sure in DC, to make sure that this job was completed, do you want them in your government? Do you want them running our government anymore, our country? Just ask yourself that. Do you really think that people like John Paul Miller are going to be held accountable when we've got this in DC? All right, let's go to 1415. All right.
To prepare us for what's going to be what is known as a color revolution. One day ago, Jasmine Crockett called the troops enforcing immigration law slave patrols. that target blacks.
I'll say it again. Donald Trump's mass deportation system makes me think of what a modern day slave patrol would look like. Slave patrols were armed groups empowered by the government to control, intimidate, and terrorize people solely based on color. That's what's happening now. Donald Trump is sending mass agents without warrants into communities of color to terrorize the people who live there. And the reason that I want to make sure that I draw out this link, because we heard Maxine say that black and brown is coming together.
Do you think Jasmine Crockett is smart enough to put all that together?
Mm-hmm. You see
Do
that?
you think that maybe somebody sat down with a group of folks and they said, let's put this together properly. Let's fuel the fire and get people out there to start looking at race again. And then we're going to send out our politicians to tell them, hey, President Trump is giving these terrible orders. They're illegal orders, and we don't need our military out there on the streets.
Now let me bring it to 1656. We already know what this stupid woman had said.
Democrat leaders claiming the National Guard is rounding up black people. I'm going to show you they just went out there and continued to push this narrative.
We believe that the National Guard and the military occupation is the first step into rounding black people up and putting them in detainment camps here in Washington, D.C. and around the United States of America.
You're following it?
And we've got 1731. There we go. All right.
They go out there and say they're targeting blacks. And then you've got the two National Guard members shot outside the White House, right? Here's CNN comparing the National Guard to Hitler's Gestapo.
Essentially, what the president is doing through the Secretary of Defense is creating units, official military units, to quite frankly, watch the American people. And that's the thing that is absolutely abhorrent. It reminds me so much
That's a
of
lie.
what happened in Germany in the 1930s.
This is all part of the Democrats' plan. We are in the middle of a color revolution. And I'm going to share with you what a color revolution is and show you more clips of media, politicians, all in sync on this color revolution. And then I'm going to show you folks on social media posting who were brainwashed, saying that it's great that the National Guard, young men, were shot.
You know, we had a great interview the other day.
Sorry, he does ads. Okay. 2039. All right, here we go.
Be amazed and reclaim your peace.
So this is from Cynical Publius. Thank you for this. Regarding color revolution. There are three phases to a color revolution. It's important to understand this so you can see how the actions of the Sedition 6 fit into this pattern. Phase 1. Form underground opposition networks. Create strong slogans and powerful information operations as recruitment tools. Upon a certain well-coordinated signal, well-funded, well-organized mass protests spontaneously appear. The armed wing of the movement conducts carefully coordinated precision attacks on certain government infrastructure. Phase 2. Discredit the military, security, and law enforcement forces through information operations, coordination with friendly media, Jimmy Kimmel, talking to you, Comrade Kelly, strikes, civil disobedience, rioting, and sabotage. You are here. And then occupy the civic facilities and refuse to leave until your demands are met. Strengthen and grow a highly organized logistics support network. Issue ultimatums to the government threatening violent uprisings if demands are unmet. The goal to either have the government acquiesce, or engage in violent repression, in each case thereby delegitimizing itself. Phase 3. Overthrow the government in a non-violent manner that is actually quite violent. Open attacks on authorities, seizure of government buildings, destruction of government symbols. Coordinate media messaging. If the government attacks, media will accuse the government of attacking peaceful protesters. If the government makes concessions, it will appear impotent because protesters will not compromise. Widespread delegitimization of the government is effective in the minds of the populace. The government either willingly codes power or is violently removed. The once underground opposition forces leadership now seizes control of the government.
Now, I want you to remember real quick before I go to the next clip. I want you to go back in your mind during the Biden era when this influx of people coming through the border. Okay, we had a mass migration of what? Do you remember women and children being in that mass migration? Because what I remember when it was being reported almost every day of it being military-aged young men from all these different countries being weaponized against the American people. That's what was going on. We're going to go over that. I want you to know who was pushing this was the very people he's talking about. The politicians and the media, the mainstream media, who are part of this color revolution. Okay? 2801. Hold on. So we'll start with that right now. This is one of those 6 that started this. This idiot right here.
Is the reaction and what this transmits to the military and the public, which is basically shut up and listen to that guy. And that's not the way our system works.
So this is an hour before Mark Kelly posted this. The terrorist executed 2 soldiers. This is how a seditious insurrection begins in the color revolution, right? They come out, they put out their spin, they get everybody worked up, and then there's a shooting.
We have loyalty. My oath and every oath every member of the military took is loyalty to the Constitution, not to a person. And he's trying to get some fear out there. And fear can be contagious. Mm-hmm. But what also can be contagious is courage and patriotism.
Yeah. Stoking the fear. And they can't give you an example of any illegal orders that President Trump has done. None.
That's right. And let me just say one thing. I want you to read this one more time. An hour before this man came out and said what he just said, and an hour before he posted this, a terrorist executed those 2 soldiers, 2 National Guard, one dying on Thanksgiving. Just remember that. Okay, let's go to 2942. We got another gutless wonder here. 42. Not that easy to do.
Even as part of the White House, you sick, disgusting ghoul. 2 of these heroes were just shot in broad daylight. The Guard has saved countless lives, backed up by evidence, which you're clearly too stupid to notice. They are American patriots. Now, let's look at the idiots that follow the mainstream media and these politicians and live off of every single word of these evil Satanists. Listen to this idiot.
Shout out to the patriot who kirked 2 federal agents near the White House. This is exactly how we need to be dealing with violent dictatorships. Embrace our Second Amendment rights. Hopefully they'll think twice about serving this racist administration.
You got it?
So he's celebrating and congratulating the man who just shot and killed one of the National Guard. I want you to think about that. This man who listens to CNN, listens to MSNBC, and that bald-headed moron that we just heard is now celebrating and congratulating the shooting of military who are there to protect you and your family. And you don't believe martial law should come into place? You think we're going to see justice for Micah and Chris under this? 3052. And what's frightening is there are people in our country who believe this. Don't you remember Charlie Kirk? You remember all the people that came out on TikTok celebrating and singing and praising whatever god, false god it is that they praise, that he was murdered the way he was? You don't remember that? Let me see now. 3650. This is the result of when you have mainstream feeding you the crap that they've been feeding you, and that they're run by the likes of George Soros and people like that. This is what you
Side causing problems. Well, what happens when a Virginia assistant principal and his brother try to ambush ICE?
Just a chilling plot to attack ICE, potentially with explosive rounds. The man on the right is John Bennett. He served as an assistant principal at a high school in Virginia Beach. DHS says the case is indicative of the more than 1,100% increase in assaults against ICE agents. Joining us now is ICE Director Todd Lyons. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Rather disturbing details that we are learning about that.
Yeah, Sandra, thanks for having me. It's really scary because unfortunately that's the day-to-day lives now of every men and women in ICE, whether it's a special agent, deportation officer, or our trial attorneys. We're constantly under a barrage of attacks. And unfortunately, a lot of these attacks are being driven by some crazy rhetoric that are coming out of a lot of elected officials. And it's really sad because now you have, plots like this, you have ramming incidents up more than 800%. The doxing is just getting unreal, and it's really scary times right now.
So they are doing all they can to make these crazies, because think about it, folks. If it's just 1% of the nation that they're losing their minds and they watch mainstream media and they listen to the politicians' rhetoric of their side, of the left and the evil ones, they're just going to go out there and start going crazy and wacko.
Okay, and I agree with him. 3815. Unless we shut them down, unless they're shut down. Remember, I had read to you that the closing down of civil liberties in the media and martial law takes over. This crap is done. It's done. And the people that are that are responsible for all of this are finally held accountable. And then you'll see the justice. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't turn himself in. I am not saying that we won't see justice and the FBI won't bring him to justice. It's not what I'm saying. But you got a better chance of that happening. Remember what they're involved in. Remember what I told you I think they're going after the Millers for, which is RICO charges, racketeering. And that's what all these people are trying to protect. Why? Because they get a kickback on it.
I'd even noticed it on billboards. Yeah, billboards encouraging military members to dissent against leadership. They're starting to appear. One near Fort Bragg, North Carolina, directing service members to a website that tells them to contact them via encrypted chat. It's been revealed that a nonprofit linked to George Soros is fomenting the sedition within the military. Around the same time, a script went out to Democrat members of Congress urging rebellion within the ranks against President Trump. There are also links to Antifa. On November 11th, just days before the video, the National Lawyers Guild published a page urging service members to refuse illegal orders. Same talking point in the video.
The National Lawyers Guild. Let me ask you, once again, do you believe that our judicial system is able to serve and do their duty, or do you think that they're too corrupt?
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
Who take risks each day
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
this administration.
Okay, enough of these freaks. National Lawyers Guild is a support of Antifa. Win Without War has put up a billboard in North Carolina urging chaos and dissent with these ranks, within the ranks. 501c4 backed by George Soros, open society. As per Data Republican, Win Without War is partnered with the National Lawyers Guild, again, a supporter of Antifa. A lot of information put out, folks, and I've got so much more to get into.
Now let's make it to 4147. And here we're going to talk about martial law.
Happened to the seditious six? Well, they should be held accountable under the law and under the Uniform Code of Military Justice for a seditious conspiracy against the United States of America. This is completely open and shut, straightforward. What is the motivation? Why would 6 members of Congress, selecting specifically for individuals with a CIA or military background, record a carefully written, carefully produced, slickly edited video messaging directly to members of our clandestine services and our armed forces, telling them to disobey orders from their superiors, telling them that they should individually determine whether an order is legal or illegal and defy it? Individuals who are exercising life and death power. The CIA engages in covert missions all over the world involving life and death decisions. The armed forces launches life-taking missions time and time again. They carry weapons. They control drones. They control missiles. They work on nuclear submarines. For what purpose would you ever deliver this message? As you said, it's to create a color revolution. It is the CIA playbook for trying to foment insurrection from within the military and within the CIA. Look, we saw after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Jesse, members of the armed forces openly celebrating his murder. So think about that for a second. You have people in the armed forces, and it can be a tiny, tiny percentage, but who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And then now they're getting a message from Kelly and from other members of Congress saying, defy your commanders, rise up and defy your superiors. That kind of language will get people killed. It endangers our national security. It is dangerously radicalizing. And it has all of the evidence of willfulness and intent. And when they go on TV and they say, well, we can't name what order is illegal, that proves the point. It was never about the law. It was breaking down the chain of command. The Democrat Party is openly engaged every day in trying to tear down democracy, whether it be judges who are binding the president with unlawful orders, releasing violent criminals back onto the street, trying to cement and protect the illegal alien invasion of America, and now fomenting rebellion inside of the ranks of our armed forces and CIA. Yeah.
So a quick update. Just got this. Breaking: the 2 National Guard members remain in critical condition from Eric Doherty, still fighting for their lives after being shot by an Afghan in D.C. It's only been 16 hours since the shooting, and as of this recording, probably almost 24 hours. Pray for a miracle.
Now, one of them, this show obviously came out. It was on the 27th, but this came out before we had found out that one of them had passed away. Now, who are the overlords to all of this? And that includes the Millers. That includes that group of people that came from Dominion TV, the T.D. Jakeses, and all of these people that we're talking about here on mainstream media, the corrupt judges, the corrupt police chiefs, Horry County Sheriff's Department, Robeson County. Who are the overlords? Who are the people that are making these people so corrupt that they're willing to put their jobs on the line, break the law, and work for them instead of working for the American people as they took an oath and said that they would do, and they were hired. Who is it that's doing this? That's able to control churches, governments, politicians, judges, police departments, Hollywood. 4702. I'll give you your answer right now. Here's your answer.
Respected generals.
There we go. Right after this.
Highly respected generals. Now I'm going to show you what happens.
Here you go.
When they're after our president. They've tried to take him out and others.
Mm-hmm.
They call it a mysterious death. We call it central bank body count. There are a lot of things in play out there, folks. We have to stay in prayer. But here's a reminder. You ready?
Abraham Lincoln printed millions in government-issued notes, bypassing European banks to fund the Civil War. 5 days after the war ended, he went to Ford's Theater. President McKinley supported the gold standard, while others favored a central bank with a flexible currency. It wasn't long before an anarchist was led into his rally. 3 business titans allegedly opposed the creation of an American central bank. They all took an unsinkable ship owned by J.P. Morgan. He was supposed to go with them, but canceled last minute. That ship was called the Titanic, and the Federal Reserve was founded the next year. Senator Huey Long rallied against the Fed and tried to cap America's wealth. He was shot inside Louisiana's capital. His gunman was killed instantly, with no autopsy, lost evidence, and conflicting ballistics. Congressman Louis McFadden accused the Federal Reserve of high treason for causing the Great Depression. He collapsed after a banquet. The official story? Heart attack. JFK signed an executive order giving the Treasury power to issue silver certificates and bypass Fed-issued notes. You know how this ends. Congressman Larry McDonald, a fierce critic of all global banking elites, boarded Korean Airlines Flight 007. The plane accidentally veered into Soviet airspace. All 269 souls died, and Moscow held the black boxes for a decade before releasing edited data. Thomas Sankara, president of Burkina Faso, rejected IMF and World Bank loans. Shortly after, he was assassinated in a coup. His successor immediately took the loans. By the year 2001, very few countries didn't have Western-controlled central banks. Afghanistan and Iraq were 2 of them. All they needed was an excuse. The ruler of Libya, Gaddafi, proposed a gold-backed African dinar to replace the dollar for oil. NATO intervened in Libya's civil war, and Gaddafi was killed. Libya got a new central bank.
So,
okay. Let me tell you something. If you're here just to hear about Micah, and you want the justice for her and you don't care about why she passed, leave my show. Because I'm not here to entertain you. I couldn't care less about your entertainment. Honest to God, I couldn't care less. What I do care about is that she gets justice and Chris gets justice, and every one of the people who have stood up against these monsters get justice. If you think that just jailing somebody like John Paul Miller is just going to get rid of the whole problem, then you are dumber than a box of rocks. And if this insults you, well, too bad. I couldn't care less. Because I noticed that a lot of people in the audience, you all come in when you see John Paul Miller or Micah Miller in the title. And then when we start talking about the reasons why people like him and his father and the like were able to get on the altar of a church and collect all this money tax-free And then why people like Micah could just be just a liability to them, and they get rid of her like a piece of garbage. And we're searching for her justice. And I'm telling you why this has happened. And you leave the show because it's not entertaining enough. We're not sitting here gossiping about the Millers, and they leave. And I'm not saying you guys are doing this, but I saw the numbers go down, and I'm like, it's you are the complicit ones who allow this to happen. And it's not until it happens to you and your family, and then you realize this corrupt justice system does absolutely nothing to protect you and yours, then maybe you'll wake up and come out of your comfort zone and go, okay, we've got something we got to fight for. And if you're a Christian and you're not using your prayer life to go up against this, shame on you. You're useless. Okay? That's what I'm trying to tell you here. We can't search for justice for these people until we have a just justice system to rely on. And right now, we don't have that. We don't have it. Let me show you how we don't have it, okay? Let me just show you. This was brought in by the very politicians that you just saw. That was brought in by these central bankers. It was weaponized by bringing in a mass migration of military-aged men to do these crimes. Let me just show you. All right. This is from the FAIR, Federation for American Immigration Reform. And these are examples of serious crimes by illegal aliens. And they go by year, man. All right, I'm just going to give you some. And what I'll do is I will put the link of And We Know in the chat. I will put the link to this and then the next thing that we're going to go over. Okay, July 2025. In the early morning of July 4th in Hillsborough County, Florida, Breonna Kelson was driving to work to open a local Wendy's restaurant. However, she was allegedly struck and killed by a Honduran national, Roberto Carlos Meza Rosales. Meza Rosales was speeding and ran a red light, after which he attempted to escape on foot. He was located by police several hours later. According to law enforcement, Meza Rosales displayed signs of intoxication. The illegal alien entered the U.S. in 2018 when he would have been 13 or 14 years old, although more details about his immigration history have yet to be released. Breonna Kelson was only 19 at the time of her death. June 2025. I'm just going to give you some here. There is a whole list, and I will show you. On June 1st in Boulder, Colorado, Egyptian national Mohammed Sabri Solomon conducted a terrorist attack using Molotov cocktails and a makeshift flamethrower and attacking a group participating in a solidarity walk for Israel hostages. Of the 29 total victims, 13 suffered physical injuries and burns, and one victim, 82-year-old Karen Diamond, eventually died as a result of her injuries. The attacker expressed no remorse and indicated that he would kill more Zionists if he could. Sabri Solomon had been methodically planning the terror attack for over a year, waiting for his daughter to graduate from high school before carrying it out, and even switched his weapons of choice from a firearm to fire after his lack of immigration status made it impossible for him to purchase a gun. He entered the U.S. with his family in August of 2022 on a B-2 tourist visa and applied for asylum the following month. His visa expired in February 2023, but he managed to obtain work authorization in March, which expired in March of 2025. This made him an illegal alien at the time of the attack in Boulder. Okay. Okay, Just Robin. Take care, hon. In early June, ICE apprehended Guatemalan national Lorenzo Lopez Alcario, who had been charged with rape of a child by force in Marlborough, Massachusetts. According to police, the illegal alien allegedly tied, bound, and gagged a child under 16 and forcibly raped them while recording the crime. Lopez Osario had previously been arrested in Arlington, Virginia for possessing Schedule 1 and 2 controlled substances in June of 2017 and was removed from the U.S. in September of that year. He re-entered illegally in June of 2022 and was released into our country. Now, I could go on. Look, take a look at how many we have here. This is 2025, ladies and gentlemen, okay? We're still in 2025. 2025. Here, I'll just give you another one. May 7th in Kemper, Kentucky, U.S. Marshals apprehended Salvadorian national David Aguada Marquez. The illegal alien is one of the 4 men accused of kidnapping and raping a 16-year-old girl at gunpoint in Harris County, Texas, on November 22nd, 2022. At the time of the arrest, he was working for a tree-cutting company. ICE is also investigating Arqueta Marquez for belonging to the 18th Street Gang in his native El Salvador. Let me just keep going. Take a look. April 2025. Take a look, people. More and more. These are all crimes. You say, Ann, what's the point you're trying to make? The point is that these people were weapons. They were weaponized onto the American people. Okay? There was a reason. Here's 2024. Here's 2024. All right? These were weapons. How are we going to get justice for U.S. citizens like Chris and Micah if we've got weapons like this being brought in by our very politicians, being protected by our judges and our police departments and our mayors and our governors and our senators? You got to be out of your friggin' mind if you think we're going to be able to protect the vulnerable of this country. And these people were given homes and money and benefits from taxpayer money. From taxpayer money. It's hysterical. Here, you want another one? I'll give you another one, just to give you an idea. Let's see. I'll give you one more. This is 2024. On July 9th, Honduran national Carlos Roberto Diaz, 18, and an unnamed juvenile, 16, went on a random shooting spree in Charlotte, North Carolina, killing Mustafa Muhammad and non-fatally wounding 2 other people. Diaz entered the U.S. illegally in 2019 with his father when he was 14. He was encountered by the USBP along the Rio Grande, but it is unclear how and why he was allowed into the country. I will leave this link, okay, in the chat after the show, so you can go through all the years, all of the cases that has been going on for how long? I mean, it's like forever. Look at this. We got 23, 22, 21, 2020, 2019, 20. I mean, it just goes on. And then you have an archive. Listen, I'm going to say it again. I said it before and I'll say it again. Okay? There is no administration, Republican or Democrat, that has given a crap about the American people, because why? They've been allowing this in for decades. I just showed you why they were doing it. This goes as far back as the Civil War and the Crown and people that wanted to take over this country. And the central bank of this country is the Federal Reserve. We want it gone. And so does Trump. And I have to laugh in the faces of the people who have TDS so badly they don't realize they're being robbed and they're unprotected. And they're so worried about having the rights of who they sleep with or what they feel like or what they want to dress being the most important thing in their lives, that they don't care about the safety of themselves or their loved ones. They're more concerned about, I want to be a man and have the right to dress as a woman. Who gives a crap? Nobody. This isn't about you. This is about protecting the whole country against these people. And if we don't do something about it now, we're screwed. And so are your kids and your grandkids. Okay? Let's be real for a minute. This is a page, and I'll also put this in the chat, where Homeland Security is honoring the victims of these crimes. Let's just go over a couple of them because they deserve to be mentioned. 48-year-old Santiago Lopez Morales was shot and killed, and a woman was held at gunpoint and sexually assaulted during a motel crime spree in Yosgar Aponte Jimenez, and these names kill me, Jose Trevino Cruz, and Jesus Beloran Guzman of Venezuela and Texas in 2025. 37-year-old Megan Boss was found decapitated and hidden in a bleach-filled storage container after being reported missing, allegedly, by Luis Mendoza Gonzalez of Mexico and Illinois in 2025. 42-year-old Maria Playtez and her 11-year-old daughter, Dayanara, were both killed in a car crash caused by Raul Luna Perez of Mexico in New Jersey, 2025. 15-year-old Luis Joscan Nanez Lopez Maron Namia was shot and killed while trying to protect his mother from an attempted rape by Gildardo Mondor Martinez of Mexico and Kentucky in 2025. Martinez also assaulted Luis's sister with a firearm. A man suffered life-threatening stab wounds after being attacked during a public soccer game by Jefferson Javier Lopez Tinoco of Honduras, Maryland, 2025. A woman was kidnapped and sexually assaulted by Jose Melodando Zavala of Honduras and Texas in 2025. A child was stalked and raped by Nicole Alexandra Contreras Suarez of Columbia, New York, 2025. 18-year-old Hallie Helgerson and 19-year-old Brady Helling were both killed in a car crash caused by Noelia Sargay Martinez Avila of Honduras in Wisconsin, 2025. A U.S. government official was stalked by Jose Madrid Reyes of El Salvador and Virginia of 2025. More than a dozen detainees and multiple ICE officers were nearly stabbed with scissors by Bass Naji of Senegal in New York in 2025. A Chinese woman was kidnapped, tied up, beaten, and sexually assaulted after being trafficked and held captive for 5 days by Jose Armando Carcamo Perdomo of Honduras and Texas in 2025. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer was shot in the arm and checked during an attempted armed robbery by Kristen Abar Barraro and Miguel Francisco Mora Nunez of Dominican Republic in New York, 2025. A woman was sexually assaulted while walking on Independence Day by Kevin Contreras Mendoza of Mexico and Oregon in 2018. And it does go on and on. There's more and more here. I will leave this for you also in the chat. So, we want to see justice for Micah. We want to see justice for Chris. We want to see justice for the Gobbles. We want to see justice for this one and justice for Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2. If you want to see justice, then we need an absolute overhaul of the justice system in this country. When the people who've been put into place to protect this country are so corrupt, they're bought and paid for, and they are literally weaponized against you and your family, do you honestly think we're going to get justice for Micah and Chris? Now, God gets the last say in everything. And I believe that the prayers of the people who've been praying without ceasing, with total faith in God, are going to see results. Not the naysayers who go, "It's never going to be justice. It's never going." I can't stand. I really, right now, the way I feel today, if I see any of you being naysayers, I'm going to strangle you because I'm just sick of hearing it. There's never going to be justice. There's never going to be justice. Just because it's not done in the time and the way that you want it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Get over yourself. Okay? A lot of us are depending on it happening. And again, I'm not saying that the FBI isn't going to do their job, but they've got one hell of a fight up against them. Okay? It's not as if they could just go and do their job. These kinds of crimes that the Millers have gotten themselves involved in, a lot of these other mega church pastors as well, is not because these were godly people who were doing godly things. They were using church as a front for their criminal activities. Who do you think? They were giving kickback to somebody to do these criminal activities. And as long as the central bankers have control, people like John Paul Miller and many others like him will just keep getting away with harming other innocent people. But if we want to see actual justice, we need for this administration to take over under the Constitution, where, again, I read it to you earlier, that if the civilian courts and the system that we're under right now is too corrupt and can't do their job, they can be taken over. And U.S. citizens can be court-martialed if there's a color revolution or they're insurrection or they're considered terrorists or they're trying to Look at those two guys who are looking to go after the ICE agents. You don't see them as terrorists? This is what we're dealing with right now. And so I am one of the people who are calling on, just like LT and the rest of the people who are calling on this administration to do something drastic. Use all of the power and everything that God has given you to take this entire thing down. Because we need justice. We need protection. The courts no longer should be protecting the criminal. That's unacceptable. It's not what us taxpayers are paying for. We expect for our courts and our judicial system to protect victims and to protect the law and go according to our Constitution, not what George friggin' Soros wants. That man should be hung. But that's a conversation for another day. Liberal Teachers Union. Yeah, all of them. Look at these attorneys, these lawyers guild. And this lawyers guild is actually doing what those 6 seditious morons did and are telling our military not to listen to their commander-in-chief. You know how dangerous that is? Very dangerous. That military is in place to protect this country and us. This is we the people, okay? This country is we the people. Not him, the Soros. Not them, the Federal Reserve. Enough of them already. Get rid of them. But see, I showed you a clip of all the people, politicians like Lincoln and whatnot, who tried to do this, just tried to implement, gold-backed or silver-backed or any precious metal-backed currency, and they got killed doing it. Obviously, Trump has to do this in another way. And I know that he's strategic. Listen, they know more than what we know and what's going on. I'm just saying that with all of this happening, we cannot depend on mainstream media. Absolutely not. They shouldn't even be speaking anymore. They should be shut down because they're a danger to society. And all these other politicians, especially if they served in the military, should be made active duty again and then court-martialed. They should be made into an example. And there should be no delay on that. They should scare the crap out of the rest that this could happen to them. And then I would look into what you could do to the politicians who are non-military. And the mainstream media who are trying to incite military and the rest to go up against our administration and our law enforcement, calling on violence against the very people who are looking to protect this country. That's unacceptable. Okay, so that's the show for today, guys. There were other things that I was going to discuss, but you know what? That puts way too much on the plate of the people who are listening. As far as John Paul Miller is concerned, we have yet to find out where he is, if he's turned himself in, where is he located, or did he start this rumor mill? We will find out. I'm sure there are people that are still watching, and we will see. I mean, either he's got to hide in his house for the rest of his life till he gets arrested, or we will find out the actual truth. But as soon as I find out, I will be right here behind this mic to let you know. Okay? But right now, it's still not confirmed. So I'm just letting you know that. And when it is confirmed that he did turn himself in or hasn't turned himself in, I will let you know. Please share this video. Look for the links in the chat after the show. And until I see you guys again, please stay safe. Please stay in prayer. I mean this. I'm not just saying it as the ending of the show. Psalm 91, the Lord's Prayer in the name of Yeshua. And until I see you guys again, please stay safe and God bless.